Hey guys, Ryan here. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down what I think are the new meta assault rifles and LMGs in Warzone. This video is going to be a little different than ones I've done in the past. I'm going to be putting the guns on a tier list, and then I'll be giving you the attachments after I put the gun on the tier list. So if you're looking for attachments, do keep your eyes on that. If you do enjoy this video, consider subscribing, consider liking, consider leaving a comment. It really helps out my channel, it pleases the algorithm gods, and I just want to say thank you for watching this video. But let's begin. In the number 1 tier, and the only gun that's going to occupy the S tier, we're going to have the Bren. Despite being nerfed, despite being changed, the Bren is still the best AR and LMG in the entire game. But the good thing is it doesn't feel like the difference between the Bren and other guns is so significant that other guns aren't worth using. That's why I have the tier list like this. Because while the Bren is king, and while it is the only gun in the S tier, all of the guns in the A plus and the A tier are going to be more than good enough to compete with it and are going to be worth using if you don't have the Bren leveled up, if you don't want to use it, or whatever. That is, I think, one of the best parts of the current meta. Unless you feel like you absolutely need to have the best gun in the game, unless you're someone who does tournaments and wagers, I would not necessarily worry about spending time leveling up the Bren unless you really want the absolute best of the best. The Bren is clearly number 1, but now we're going to jump into the A plus tier. Starting off, we're going to have the C58. Now to me, the C58 is absolutely amazing right now. I have not used this gun in a long time. I pretty much haven't used this gun since the integration happened, and after using it the past couple days, I am blown away by how good it is. I feel like I've been sleeping on this gun because for a long time now, almost all of my videos have been about Vanguard only guns. Now, it's not perfect. It feels really weird not being able to put fully loaded on a C58 class if you're running it with Ghost or whatever. And it also has pretty heavy kick when you're talking about gunfights beyond 75 meters, areas like that. When you're getting into those ranges, it gets a little more lackluster in my eyes, but it's still a really, really good gun. The damage is insane between 25 and 75 meters, and it is outright one of my favorite ARs I've used in a long time. So, moving in the second slot in the A plus tier, we're going to have the Grau. Now, the Grau is once again one of those guns that I've been absolutely sleeping on since the integration, and I think it's something a lot of people need to try. Now, I am kind of on the fence between putting this in A tier or A plus tier, but I'm going to put an A plus for now because I just found there's almost no gun in the entire game that has this feel of a low kick, accurate AR. Almost all of the assault rifles in the game right now have a decent bit of kick to them at pretty good ranges. While they are mainly low recoil, everything from the Bren, the STG, the Cooper Carbide, whatever, it has somewhat decent kick when you're talking about 100 meters or so, but the Grau remains one of the lowest recoil guns in the game. Now, it isn't perfect, it isn't no recoil or whatever, it still has recoil of course, but is much more manageable compared to almost all the other guns on this list, and that's why I have it so high. It isn't the most powerful gun in the game, but it's really enjoyable to use, and if you're someone who really enjoys this gun, enjoyed it in the past or whatever, do give it a try now, and I think you're going to really enjoy it. I'm now going to be moving into the A tier, but I have to say guys, the difference between A plus tier and the A tier are so small that you really shouldn't actually see a difference. I just didn't want to put almost all of the guns in one tier, so I split it up into A plus and A tier, but I really think the difference is so small between these guns that they're all essentially in the same tier, so please do keep that in mind. But let's begin first with the STG. The STG is a great gun to use right now. It's not as good as the Bren, unfortunately, but it still is amazing. I've been really enjoying using it, and pretty much every gun in the A tier you're going to have a good time using. If you have this gun leveled up, if you're interested in using it, I would recommend using any of the guns in this tier, and the STG is just one of those guns I know most people have leveled up. I know a lot of people have been using it as ground loot. I know a lot of people have just been using it in general, and if you're wondering if it's still good, yes, it still is. I'm going to have the best build in my eyes for it, but I will say there's a lot of variations you can use, and do make sure with any of these builds, any of these things, you make adjustments for your own playstyle and for yourself. If you don't like my STG build, make sure to change it a little bit, give it a little change, do whatever. But overall, I'd highly recommend the STG. But let's move on, and we're going to have the EM2 from Cold War. Now, the EM2 is very similar feeling to the C58 right now, although it just feels a little clunkier, and the damage does feel better, between 25 and 50 meters, but it doesn't feel as reliable beyond 50 meters. And I just found the C58 to feel a little better at times in the longer ranges. But the EM2 just is an amazing gun overall. And it's something I've really been enjoying as well. And it's something that's kind of just, as I said before, just like the C58. So almost anything I said about the C58 essentially applies to the EM2. But whatever one you would want to use is probably going to come down to personal preference and whatever one you are more used to using. So do keep that in mind. Moving on from there, we're going to have the bar. Now the bar, guys, to me, this thing could be even higher on this tier list, and I may have underestimated a little bit, and I'm just going to really have to see within the upcoming weeks. What I have noticed is at first when you're using this thing, it just feels kind of weird. It feels a little clunky, but once you get the feel for it, once you get used to the recoil, this thing has insane damage and it melts people at ranges that I cannot believe. I am going to have some footage in the background, hopefully, and I hope you notice how insane this thing is. It just shreds people at long ranges and it blows me away how powerful this thing is. It will just tear kids apart at long ranges if you just learn to fire it correctly. Learn to tap fire, 2-3 shots there, 2-3 shots, 2-3 shots. Kind of fire like a single fire DMR type gun, but you can use it a little full auto as well. And between 0 and 50 meters, just full auto it, because like that, you're gonna melt kids. There's something about this gun that is amazing, guys, and I'd highly recommend for people to try it out. Also, apologies for using amazing like 6-7 times in this video already. So moving on from there is going to be the Cooper Carbide. I'm not going to spend too long talking about the Cooper Carbide because in the long range form, it's been talked about to death by plenty of other YouTubers, by people like myself. It is a great gun in the long range form. It is one of the best guns since the start of integration, and it is probably going to remain that way for at least a good bit more. It's just really a solid gun overall, and it's something that if you have it leveled up, if you enjoy using it, do not feel bad about using it at all. And going on from there, up next, we're going to have the Type 11. Now, this one is kind of weird, guys. I wasn't sure where to fit this exactly. I think this gun is going to take a little work to find its exact spot in the meta. It could be higher, it could be lower. And that's similar to the guns I have in the B tier, as you're going to find out. But what I do want to say about this thing is don't sleep on it. I think we may see in a couple weeks with a little more time to kill adjustments, a little more nerfs around the board, this gun could be one of the best guns in the entire game to use, period. And I think even right now, it's a really good AR LMG to use at pretty long ranges. Now, it doesn't have the best damage, but it has easy recoil to control when you finally have it fully leveled up. And it has just a pretty good feel overall. And that's one of the main things I look for in a gun is feel. And that's what the Type 11 has going for it. It has a great feel. So that's going to kind of wrap up the A tier. And this is kind of my favorite tier, and as I said before, A and A plus is kind of interchangeable, and they kind of go hand in hand. It's got to be more personal preference, so do keep that in mind. And moving into the B tier, guys, I just really want to talk about these guns because I really think they have a lot of potential. And I think if you like these guns and can learn to use them, you're going to have a lot of success. Up first, the NZ41. To me, the NZ41 isn't insane, but after they buffed it a little bit, they kind of brought it back a little bit to where it was at the start. It's seeming a lot better in my eyes. It does have kind of weird recoil. It feels a little clunky. It kind of has a slower rate of fire, but it does just feel good. When those shots are hitting, when you're hitting upper chest shots and headshots, it will melt people. And I've really started to like this thing, especially in the ground loot forms. So I'm kind of hoping that we see this gun become more and more meta in the next couple weeks. And finally, the last gun on this entire list is the AS44. I think the AS44 could be a good sniper support. I think it could be a good long range gun. But for now, it just has a little too much kick and recoil for most people. But if you are someone who can control the recoil, if you spend time learning the recoil, if you purposely are making sure to mount up with this gun, you are going to find great success with it. I promise, guys, the recoil on this thing, once you get used to it a little bit, you're going to start frying. Beyond 50 meters, good luck. Genuinely, good luck with this thing beyond 50 meters. But within 50 meters, it is a melt machine. So if you like this gun, if you can kind of learn how to use it, I think you're going to learn that it's really, really good. Now, I do just kind of want to wrap all of this up with just saying one last thing, and that's going to be this. There are plenty of other viable options to use. I had to leave so many guns off because this video would be 14-15 minutes long if I put every gun I want to talk about on this list. There's guns like the M13, the M4A1, the Krig. There's so many guns that I couldn't talk about that I really want to get to, but that is okay. I got to the main ones I want to talk about. I hope you guys enjoy this video. I'm just going to kind of rush this outro because, God, this video is already long as is. I appreciate anyone who stuck around this late. I really, really appreciate it. I hope you have a good day. It's been Ryan. Peace.